The envelope was delivered by hand. Thick paper. Official seal. My name printed in the center, like a target. I opened it at the kitchen table. Slowly. Carefully, so I wouldn't tear the pages. The first blow hit me in the title. Petition for appointment of guardian due to mental incompetence. Below it, my full name. And a list of so-called symptoms. Frequently forgets names. Confuses dates. Displays unusual, erratic behavior. Lies. Every single one. But printed in that crisp, legal font, the kind meant to make them permanent. The signature, my only son, Daniel. Bold black ink. Steady hand. As if sealing a deal he'd been waiting to close. In the proposed guardian field, he had written his own name. Control of my money. Control of my property. Control of me. I read the entire thing twice without moving. The kitchen clock ticked behind me. My tea had gone cold. I didn't slam the table. I didn't call him. I didn't give him the reaction he was ready for, the red-faced anger he could parade in court as evidence of instability. Instead, I stacked the papers neatly. Slipped them back into the envelope. And made a fresh pot of tea. 2 days later, I sat in court. Perfectly still. Charcoal suit. Pressed shirt. Daniel arrived in a navy blazer, his young lawyer beside him, glancing at me like I might forget where I was. I let my eyes wander. Not lost. Just slow. They spoke of my declining mental state like they were reading a medical chart. Apparently, I'd been spotted at the post office trying to withdraw funds from thin air. And I'd called Daniel 3 times in one night asking where my wife was. My wife has been dead for 11 years. I didn't argue. Didn't frown. I just sat, hands folded, letting their words drift past me. My lawyer, Whitaker, stood when they were done. His voice was calm. Almost casual. Your Honor, we request a continuance to gather additional medical evaluations. Granted. 2 weeks. Daniel passed me on the way out. Eyes straight ahead. Cologne heavy in the air. Tension in his jaw. A little too quick in his step. He thought he'd won the first round. At home, I opened my old work notebook. First page, blank. At the top, I wrote, Daniel, petition for control. Underneath. Stay quiet. Collect everything. The pen rested across the page like a loaded gun. Daniel thought he was about to take my life apart. Piece by piece. He didn't realize. I'd just given him permission to keep building, so I could own the demolition. The morning after the hearing, I called no one. Silence is a weapon, if you know how to use it. Daniel expected me to fight. To run around town, trying to prove my sanity. To make just enough noise for him to twist into erratic behavior. He'd given me 2 weeks until the next hearing. He thought that was his window. It was mine. I went to my safe. In the back, behind insurance policies and the house deed, was a small black recorder. The kind journalists use. A retirement gift from an old colleague who told me, you never know when you'll need proof. I slid it into my jacket pocket. That afternoon, I drove to a cafe near Daniel's lawyer's office. A place Daniel liked for business lunches. I ordered tea. Sat in the back. Waited. At 12:14, he walked in with his lawyer. They didn't see me. Or maybe they saw just an old man in the corner, harmless. The recorder sat under a folded newspaper. Their talk started light, weather, parking. Then the lawyer leaned in. Are you sure about the medical reports? They're creative. Daniel smirked. She owes me a favor. The clinic's happy to put it in writing. The click of my pen covered the recorder's beep. Every word, captured. Over the next 3 days, I gathered more. A neighbor who overheard Daniel bragging about having Dad declared incompetent to protect the estate. An email forward, a forged psychiatric summary, sent to the wrong person. I made duplicates of everything. One in my desk drawer. One in my safe. One at a former colleague's house, a man who owed me more than a few favors. On the 4th day, I called my real doctor. Dr. Mendez. The one Daniel left out of his petition. Do you still have my last full evaluation? I asked. Of course, she said. Cognitive tests, reflexes, memory, all clean. Why? I'll need certified copies. Multiple. When I hung up, I wrote in my notebook. Medical fraud, audio plus witnesses plus certified counterproof. In court, I would still play the slow, compliant father. Let him believe my silence was surrender. Every fake smile to the judge, every lie, was another brick in the wall I was building. And I would drop that wall all at once. The thing about lies, is they rarely stand alone. They travel in packs. Each one tied to another, by the same nervous hands that created them. Daniel's petition was a sweater. All I had to do, was find the loose thread. And pull. I started with the forged medical reports. The copy I'd been emailed was sloppy, a template so bad, a second-year med student could have spotted it. The letterhead was wrong. The signature was wrong. And the date? It placed my supposed evaluation on the same day I'd been photographed at a retirement luncheon, in another city. Half a dozen witnesses could swear I'd been as sharp as the coffee was strong. But the name at the bottom, Dr. Laurel Sims, was real. I'd met her once. She was competent. Careful. Not the type to risk her license for my son. That meant one of two things. Someone had stolen her name. Or she'd signed something without knowing how it would be used. A quick call to her office cleared it up. We have no record of an evaluation for you in the last 5 years, Mr. Grayson, her assistant said. And Dr. Sims doesn't do competency assessments. Forgery confirmed. Medical. One thread down. The next pull, was financial. If Daniel wanted guardianship, it wasn't to make sure I took my vitamins. It was about money. My money. I went to a bank Daniel didn't use, one where I'd been a client long enough for the manager to greet me by name. I asked for a review of any accounts, loans, or liens tied to my signature that I hadn't personally approved in the last year. She returned with a look I knew from my days as an auditor, the look you give a client before you drop bad news. Mr. Grayson, there are 3 lines of credit in your name. 2 open jointly with your son. 1 was a home equity line against my house. Maxed out. Another was a business credit facility for a company I'd never heard of. Balance, $47,000. The third, smaller, but already in arrears, was a personal loan, co-signed by me. Daniel had been busy. I left with certified copies of every document. Each signature close to mine, but wrong. Too smooth. Missing the faint hitch in the Y, the one I've had since breaking my wrist in '82. Forgery confirmed. Financial. The third thread, came from pure luck. Though I've always believed luck favors the prepared. I was leaving the grocery store when I heard my name. Marcus Lane, a former co-worker. He looked uneasy. Heard you're having some trouble, he said. Your boy's been talking. Is that so? I kept my voice light. Marcus glanced around. Lowered his tone. He was at a networking dinner last week. Told some guys in my circle you were, slipping. Said it was time to, He hesitated. Reposition the assets before the old man does something dumb. Those were his words. Reposition, I repeated. Harold Foster was there, Marcus added. He remembers exactly what was said. And he doesn't like being lied to. If you need a statement. I did. Very much. By the time I got home, I had 2 signed affidavits, Marcus's and Harold's. Both detailing Daniel's little speech about my decline and his plans to manage my estate. That night, I spread everything across the dining table. Audio recordings. Forged documents. Bank statements. Witness statements. The pattern was clear. Daniel wasn't just planning to take control, he'd already been acting like he had it. I made 3 binders. One for me. One for my lawyer. And one for someone Daniel wouldn't see coming. That last binder was for Olivia Raines, an investigative journalist. An old friend. She loved stories where the guilty thought they'd gotten away clean. But not yet. Timing mattered. For now, I would keep playing the dazed old man. Let Daniel believe the court date was my judgment day. In reality, it would be his. I locked the binder in my safe. Daniel had started a process he thought he controlled. I would let him keep thinking that, right up until he realized, he'd built his own gallows. I didn't need to win in court to beat Daniel. If I could make the court see him for what he was, before we ever walked in. The petition would collapse under its own weight. And if his whole life collapsed with it, well, that was just symmetry. The binder marked Raines sat on my desk like a coiled snake. I'd known Olivia since our 30s, me, working corporate audits, her, digging into financial scandals that ended with handcuffs. She had a knack for stories where the guilty thought they were untouchable. I called her that Monday morning. Got a live one, I said. I'm listening. Forged medical records. Financial fraud. Family angle. Family angle, she asked. My son, I said flatly. He's petitioning to have me declared incompetent. Already moving my assets like they're his. I have witnesses. Recordings. Bank statements. And real medical evaluations that prove he's lying. A pause. Then her tone sharpened. Bring it. Today. By 3 p.m., we were in her office. Blinds half closed. Winter light slipping in. She read the binder page by page, pen tapping her lip. Who else has this? She asked. My lawyer. That's it. Good. We'll start with the forgeries. Fraud hooks the public fast. The rest will be context. We talked for an hour. When I left, she looked like she'd been handed a front-page headline. But I wasn't done. Olivia was the right hook. I still needed a left jab. That came from an old contact at the state licensing board, a man I'd once helped out of a messy audit. I called him after dinner. I've got probable cause for financial misconduct tied to a licensed individual, I said. Family member. I want to file a confidential complaint. He didn't even ask who. Send the documents. If it checks out, we'll flag him for review. I sent him a curated package, joint accounts, forged signatures, fake business lines of credit. Enough to make Daniel's financial house shake. By Wednesday, I got confirmation. Daniel's accounts were now under review. Delays. Freezes. Obstacles. Pressure makes people slip. And a single slip could bury him. For the final touch, I sent an anonymous tip to his employer's compliance department. Not an accusation. Just, dates that matched his asset grabs. By Friday, I knew it had landed. I was having coffee at the same cafe where I'd recorded him, when Daniel walked in alone. No suit. No smile. No appetite. He sat in the corner, staring at his phone like it was counting down. On my way out, I let him see me. Gave a slow, vague nod, the kind you give when you can't quite place a face. Let him wonder. Was the old man slipping? Or was the old man playing? That night, Olivia called. I'm thinking a two-part exposé, she said. First, a broad piece, the bigger scheme. How fake psych evaluations are being used to seize family assets. Second, we name names. Play the recordings. You okay with that? Yes, I told her. When's your next hearing? A week. She chuckled. Perfect timing. I hung up and wrote the next line in my notebook. Stage 1 complete. Pressure applied. Daniel had no idea the walls were moving in. By the time he realized, the air would already be gone. Pressure changes people. Some hold their shape. Others bend until they break. 3 days after the first strike, the financial review hit him like a slow avalanche. His joint accounts were frozen. Scheduled transfers bounced back. Automatic payments failed. I didn't need my contact to confirm it. I could read it in the signs. His car in the driveway at noon. Curtains closed all morning. No weekend outings. Small changes kept stacking. The pristine lawn, unmowed. A contractor's van sat outside his house for an hour before leaving. No packages on his porch. Even the cologne he used to wear, gone. Meanwhile, Olivia worked quietly. I fed her proof. Timestamps on the forged reports. Bank withdrawals lining up with his lies about my capacity. Names of people who'd heard his boasts. She verified every detail. Layered credibility over each page. The story was forming a spine. The licensing board's investigation moved forward too. Every questionable transaction was being dissected. In his profession, even the hint of mishandling funds could end a career. Suspension would be his best outcome. The worst, would erase him completely. And through it all, I stayed still. I didn't confront him. Didn't explain. I just let the silence grow heavier. Until it became a weight he couldn't carry. By the weekend, I could see it in his walk. Shoulders hunched. Head down. Movements clipped and urgent. The man who'd walked into court certain of victory, now looked like a man waiting for an impact he couldn't see, but could feel. It started with one small step out of place. The kind of stumble most wouldn't notice. But in Daniel's position, every movement was being watched. Monday morning, I got a call from an old acquaintance, a security guard in Daniel's office building. He'd known me back when I handled their accounts. His voice was low. Your son didn't come in today. The boss was here. Lots of closed-door meetings. Didn't sound friendly. Alone, it didn't mean much. But the next day, a copy of the local business bulletin landed on my doorstep. Buried in the back was a note, employee placed on administrative leave pending internal review. No names. But the timing told me everything. From then on, Daniel's decline stopped being private. It became public. The first crack showed at the grocery store. I saw him 2 aisles over. He stood staring at the same shelf for a full minute before moving. His cart, nearly empty. Bread. Instant coffee. Generic cereal. No premium brands. His shirt was wrinkled. Hair uncombed. A man who once thrived on appearances, had stopped tending to the surface. That afternoon, a neighbor I'd never spoken to slowed her car as I walked back from the post office. He all right? She asked, nodding toward his street. Saw him sitting in his truck for 20 minutes yesterday. Didn't even get out. I told her I didn't know. And that was the truth. I didn't know exactly what was in his head. Only that the pressure was working. Olivia stayed in close contact. The first article was almost ready. No names yet. It had to be broad, general examples, collective outrage. She understood. Weaken the defense before the accused even hears their name. The licensing board had also stepped deeper into his file. Their request for more documents became public record, not widely read, but accessible. I made sure someone in his professional circle noticed. Within a day, it was circulating quietly among colleagues. A few reached out to me, pretending to check in. Fishing for details. I gave them nothing. Silence lets the mind create its own worst-case scenario. By Thursday, Daniel had started avoiding his usual haunts. No cafe. No gym. No Thursday night poker. His car barely left the driveway. Lights on late into the night. Curtains drawn. Then came Friday, the real falter. A mutual contact forwarded me a voicemail Daniel had left by mistake, thinking he'd hung up. His voice was tight. "We have to move it now. If it stays where it is, they'll find it. I don't care how, just make it disappear." He never named what it was. He didn't have to. I added the recording to my evidence file. Time-stamped. Transcribed. I didn't send it to Olivia yet. Timing mattered more than ever. His world was shrinking. His allies were pulling away. I'd seen it in business before, the slow retreat from a man whose fall feels inevitable. The hearing was now 4 days away. Olivia's article would run in too. And Daniel, who had walked into the first hearing looking like a man about to collect, would walk into the next one looking like a man who'd already lost. By Monday morning, Daniel's world had no exits left. The trap wasn't just set, it was already closing. The first squeeze came from his bank. My contact confirmed the review had escalated. Every transaction over $100 now needed documented proof of origin. For a man moving money he didn't want traced, that was a choke chain. The second squeeze came from the licensing board. Their investigation hit the formal stage, notice of preliminary findings. The language was bland, possible violations, compliance deficiencies. But in his industry, it read like a warning shot. It meant they'd already found enough to proceed. At the same time, Olivia made her move. The first article went live that morning. No names, not yet. But the details were close enough to my case that anyone who knew Daniel would recognize the outline. A widowed retiree. Accused of incompetence by his only child. Forged medical reports. Misappropriated funds. It spread faster than I'd expected. While the article churned, I sent a final packet to my lawyer, Whitaker, every forged signature, every audio clip, every sworn statement. We'd hold most of it for court, but he'd have it all ready. Clean. Sequential. Unshakable. The third squeeze came from inside Daniel's own home. That weekend, his wife left the house with her sister. When they returned, she carried 2 suitcases. Money trouble corrodes more than bank accounts. Neighbors started noticing other changes. Empty garbage bins on collection day. A lawn left uncut. An upstairs curtain kept shut even in daylight. 2 days before the hearing, I made my last move. A quiet visit to the courthouse's public relations office. I left a sealed envelope, a press release with supporting documents. The kind that becomes very relevant when a breaking story drops mid-hearing. That evening, I wrote the final line under Daniel's name in my notebook. Options exhausted. No retreat. He'd tried to corner me. Expecting panic. Expecting mistakes. Instead, I'd closed him in on every side, and taken the floor out from under him. Tomorrow would be the hearing. And for Daniel, tomorrow, fear would stop being an emotion. It would become an environment. The day before the hearing, Daniel finally broke. It started with a phone call just after 7 a.m. I let it ring until voicemail picked up. A minute later, it rang again. I ignored it. 2 more calls. Then texts. Short. Frantic. We need to talk. Urgent. Please pick up. This isn't about the hearing. Of course it was about the hearing. Everything was. By mid-morning, pounding on my front door. 3 sharp knocks. Silence. Then 3 more. I stayed in my study, pen poised over the notebook. When I finally opened the door, Daniel stood there. Pale. Unshaven. Wearing the same shirt I'd seen 3 days ago. We need to talk, he said. No greeting. No smile. Just raw strain. I stepped aside. He came in fast, like he might lose his nerve if he stopped. He didn't sit. He paced. Hands flexing at his sides, his tail when cornered. Words spilling too quickly. The confidence he'd carried into the first hearing, gone. The licensing review was overblown. The bank freeze was a misunderstanding. Olivia's article was obviously exaggerated. Excuse after excuse, each one thinner than the last. He wasn't trying to prove innocence. He was trying to make it all stop. Finally, he landed where I knew he would. If we present a united front tomorrow, they'll have no case. We can settle the rest privately. Just, drop whatever you've been doing. He didn't know the half of what I'd been doing. But he knew enough to be afraid. I let him talk himself into silence. Then I picked up the leather binder from my desk and set it on the table between us. His eyes locked on it. He knew exactly what it was. He didn't open it. Didn't have to. His tone shifted. Bargaining to begging. The petition had been poorly timed. He'd never intended to take everything. And, my personal favorite, he should have handled things differently with the doctor. An admission, wrapped in desperation. He spoke about family like a drowning man talks about a lifeboat. Not out of love. Out of survival. I didn't answer. Didn't say yes. Didn't say no. I simply closed the binder, slid it back toward myself, and stood. The meeting ended without agreement. But the hesitation in his step at the door told me. Tomorrow, he knew, would not be about proving whether I was competent. It would be about proving what he was. That evening, Olivia called. The second article was queued for release at 10 a.m., just as the courthouse lobby would be full. This time, it named names. Quoted witnesses. Embedded audio files. The final paragraph spelled it out. One man's attempt to have his father declared incompetent, using forged medical evaluations. And how that case was about to face its second hearing. I hung up. Locked the binder in my case. Laid out my suit for the morning, not the charcoal one from the first hearing. A darker one. Sharper. Unmistakable. Tomorrow, Daniel would expect another slow grind toward a decision. Tomorrow, he would learn what judgment feels like when it doesn't wait for the judge. The courthouse lobby smelled faintly of coffee and floor polish. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. People shuffled toward security, clutching folders, murmuring to their lawyers. I arrived early. Case in hand. Took a seat along the far wall, where I could see the main doors. At 9:42, Daniel walked in. Suit a shade lighter than usual, but the same cut. Still trying to look composed. He spotted me, gave a short nod, and turned toward the checkpoint. That's when the first ripple went through the room. The big screens above the lobby flickered. The usual court announcements vanished. A title card appeared in stark white letters. Special report, property seizure scheme under investigation. The image cut to Olivia's report. Not just text, full video. Her voice was calm. Surgical. A growing number of families are facing a disturbing trend, adult children exploiting guardianship laws to seize control of assets from competent parents. Then came the evidence. Forged medical evaluations. Bank statements with my signature falsified. Clips from the cafe, Daniel's voice, clear. She owes me a favor. The clinic's happy to put it in writing. Heads turned toward the screens. People froze mid-step. Lawyers stopped with files half out of their briefcases. Then his name appeared. Full name. Occupation. A smiling photo from his company website. Daniel stopped walking. Eyes fixed on the nearest monitor. No blink. No movement. The report rolled on. Witness statements. Dr. Sims denying she'd ever evaluated me. Side-by-side shots of forged documents and the real ones. Methodical. Airtight. By the time it ended, the lobby was silent, except for the click of the security scanner. Then came the second ripple. 2 plainclothes officers entered from a side hallway. Badges visible. Purpose in their stride. They didn't look at me. They went straight to Daniel. Daniel Grayson. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. One officer spoke quietly, just loud enough for the closest to hear. Fraud. Forgery. Arrest warrant. A moment later, steel cuffs clicked behind his back. Every eye in the lobby followed as they led him out the side door. He kept his gaze down. The color drained from his face. He didn't look at me. That was fine. His chance for eye contact had come and gone. Whitaker appeared at my side. Well, he said, glancing toward the empty space where Daniel had stood. I suppose this makes the hearing unnecessary. It did. But I hadn't come for the court's decision. The judgment had already been delivered.